Hello, and welcome to eBible Fellowship's Question of the Week. Now enjoy the discussion.
Welcome to our program. Please go ahead with your call.
Blessed the Sabbath to everybody first. Jeremiah 30, 14 and 15, and focusing on that last line of 15, and I have a few more scriptures.
Okay, Jeremiah 30, verses 14 and 15. All thy lovers have forgotten thee, they seek thee not. For I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitude of thine iniquity, because thy sins were increased. Why criest thou for thine affliction? Thy sorrow is incurable for the multitude of thine iniquity, because thy sins were increased. I have done these things unto thee.
Leviticus 26, 25.
Leviticus 26, verse 25. I'll start in verse 23. And if ye will not be reformed by me by these things, but will walk contrary unto me, then will I also walk contrary unto you, and will punish you yet 7 times for your sins. And I will bring a sword upon you that shall avenge the quarrel of my covenant. And when ye are gathered together within your cities, I will send the pestilence among you, and ye shall be delivered into the hand of the enemy.
And lastly, 2 Chronicles 34, 24, sir.
2 Chronicles 34, 24. Thus saith Jehovah, behold, I will bring evil upon this place and upon the inhabitants thereof, even all the curses that are written in the book which they have read before the king of Judah.
Okay, I bring these verses up because, the other day, I think probably Wednesday or Thursday evening, you made a comment and you said basically, and I hope this comes out right, but you basically said that you just lifted your hand off, restraints off, and the devil knew to go to the churches. But I feel like
God lifted his hand.
but I feel like with these kind of verses, and also the other one I couldn't find, I will bring a nation upon you whose tongue you don't know, that he was specifically raised up, like, go into there, go do the judgment, rather than something. I don't think you meant it like as haphazardly, like he lifted off his hands but it was truly, he knew what he was going to do. But he shouldn't have, still, the devil and Nebuchadnezzar should not have done what he did to Judah, but that he was raised up specifically for judgment. Like, I don't know. I hope I said it right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, it's true. It's true. But where we have to be careful is, even though it's judgment on the church, what kind of activities did Satan do when he came against the church, and what type of things did Nebuchadnezzar do historically? And God even calls him my servant. In Jeremiah 20, historically, he calls Nebuchadnezzar my servant. I think it's Jeremiah 25, verse 9. And they were evil things. They were evil things to destroy, to kill, to ravish and pillage, and very evil things were done historically by the Babylonians. And certainly what Satan and his emissaries did to the church was very evil. It's very evil to lie, to deceive, to bring false gospels. And so God doesn't direct them into the evil they're going to do, because he's not the author of sin. He doesn't cause people to do evil. So that's why there needs to be some carefulness as we're describing it. We know the Lord loosed Satan, and in loosing Satan, God knew exactly what he would do. All the destruction, all the lying gospels, and all the sin that would result, that would cause harm to the churches and congregations of the world. But it's Satan's responsibility. That's what I meant. He's responsible for the sin. Nebuchadnezzar, the man, was responsible for the evil that he did in putting out, well, first of all, calling the children of the king and executing them all before his eyes, and after executing all of his children, putting out his eyes. That was Nebuchadnezzar's evil, and he very cruel man historically with many of the things he did. God didn't make him do those things. He did those things because he was a sinful man, and it was his wickedness that did them. But in doing them, it accomplished the purpose of God to bring judgment on a rebellious people. Same thing as he pictured Satan, with what God did with Satan and all the churches and congregations of the world. And if we go to Jeremiah 26, which is the chapter after, well, first of all, since I just turned to Jeremiah 25, it says in verse 8, therefore thus saith Jehovah of hosts, because ye have not heard my words, behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, saith Jehovah, and Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant, and will bring them against this land, and against the inhabitants thereof, and against all these nations round about, and will utterly destroy them, and make them an astonishment and a hissing and perpetual desolations. And verse 11, this whole land shall be a desolation, an astonishment. These nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years, and it shall come to pass, when 70 years are accomplished, that I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation, saith Jehovah, for their iniquity in the land of the Chaldeans. Now, more specifically, God says in Jeremiah 50 in verse 28, why he's going to punish the king of Babylon and the Babylonians, the voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babylon, to declare in Zion the vengeance of Jehovah our God, the vengeance of his temple. And it's repeated in chapter 51 in verse 11, make bright the arrows, gather the shields. Jehovah has raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, for his devices against Babylon, to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of Jehovah, the vengeance of his temple. They destroyed his temple. Well, didn't God call Nebuchadnezzar his servant? Didn't God know yes, God knew all that, but it doesn't excuse it. They're responsible for the sinfulness of it, though it did accomplish God's overall purpose. And, in Jeremiah 26, Jeremiah is the prophet the Lord used to declare these things to the people of Judah. And notice the reaction in verse 8. Now it came to pass, when Jeremiah had made an end of speaking all that Jehovah had commanded him to speak unto all the people, that the priests and the prophets and all the people took him, saying, thou shalt surely die. Why hast thou prophesied in the name of Jehovah, saying, this house shall be like Shiloh, and this city shall be desolate without an inhabitant? And all the people were gathered against Jeremiah in the house of Jehovah. And then the princes come, and the princes actually spared Jeremiah at this time, and they bring up Micah, who prophesied in the days of Hezekiah, a smaller yet similar type evil, and they point out Hezekiah didn't have that prophet Micah put to death. And see, this is the reaction of the church. They don't believe it. They don't believe it. You seem like a traitor. You're not a Christian. You're not a child of God. How can you prophesy that God would judge his church, that God would turn it over to Satan for destruction? And that is how the people were responding to Jeremiah. And then other prophets would rise up themselves, and they would prophesy against Jeremiah, prophesy contrary to Jeremiah, and even say, well, God will deliver the vessels of the sanctuary, and God will basically defeat the Babylonians. And it never happened. The true prophet was Jeremiah. Jeremiah, who spoke of evil things, awful things, terrible things concerning the judgment of God. The false prophets, and notice there in verse 8, the priest and the prophets, plural, and all the people took him. But the true prophets were preaching judgment, wrath, and destruction of an unfaithful people.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. That way you don't miss any upcoming videos.